Story 1. So it all started on Sunday, May 26th. I was flying back home from Texas, where I was at my girlfriend's sister's wedding. We had a layover in Las Vegas before our 1-hour flight back to Sacramento. I landed in Las Vegas and got to the reception when my roommates called me. They told me that the door to our backyard gate was busted open and my beautiful husky wolf mix was missing. That dog means everything to me. She is 3 years old now, and I've had her since she was 2 months old. She's been with me through all my breakups, my layoffs, and my evictions. She was my only friend when all my other friends believed the rumors my ex said about me. Anyways, she was gone, and I got home to start doing the usual. Putting up flyers, offering a reward, and notifying every shelter, vet, and her chip company of her disappearance. I put notices on every lost and found page, and suddenly it started to go viral on Facebook. A lot of people really wanted to help me find my dog, and I had eyes everywhere. I woke up one day to a Craigslist ad with a picture of an unknown girl hugging my dog with the ad titled "Found Husky." A friend of mine sent it to me, so I contacted the ad maker. The lady was nice and explained how she didn't find my dog, but a friend of hers on Instagram found her. She watched her pictures on Instagram and bragged about how the universe brought me this beautiful creature. She sent me screenshots of her Instagram and all the pictures she posted of my dog. She then told me I don't know her personally, but she is a fellow escort. It turns out the girl who has my dog is an escort, so she messaged the girl to tell her that she found the owner of the dog, and she deleted all posts about my dog and blocked the ad maker. So I thought, all right, this is already viral, game on. I got all the people who had been searching, including my detective aunt, and we made a hunt. I filed a police report, and they were down to bust the lady, but I had to find where she was and holding my dog for them to do anything, which was pretty useless. I got people to start contacting one another. We found her legal name and all the addresses she was tied with, including her boyfriend's mom, stepdad, and possibly her dad and stepmom's info. We even found 2 warrants for her arrest. She was charged with petty theft, hit and run involving property damage, lying to a peace officer, and possession of contraband. After I found that info, including her being an escort, which is illegal where I'm from, we had her. I dug up all her info, including emails and phone numbers, with her escort phone number. So I called this woman to confront her, and she started yelling at me about how I'm harassing and threatening her. This was the first time I had ever talked to the woman and how she was going to press charges on me. She told me she bought my dog from a shelter. She also told me which shelter 2 days prior. I confirmed that wasn't true. Meanwhile, I gathered all the proof I had that this dog was mine, which included 3 years of time-stamped photos with me, and the dog and the chip information that my dog was registered with, and her being in my name with the chip company. She was told this and still refused to give her back, saying, "I'm afraid to give the dog back because the owner is threatening me," which I never did and have proof of that. So now she was on blast on Facebook, Instagram, and Reddit as well. Update. So I'm not sure what more I can really do. The court fees to even try and get this lady are going to break my bank, and I already spent over $1,000 trying to find my dog. Then, even trying to find and serve her with the court may not work because the police will only try 3 times before they say, "Well, you're on your own," and then I would have to hire a private investigator. I'm not sure what to do besides blast her so hard that this ends up on every news station and radio station in the Sacramento region. Update again. Oh boy, so check this out. The girl that stole my dog was with another girl when they found my dog, and boy does the plot thicken. They are both escorts, so the girl that stole my dog, let's call her Blonde Thief, and the girl she was with, we will call her Red-Haired Thief. Blonde Thief left for San Francisco to work. She came back home early to find her boyfriend was cheating on her with the Red-Haired Thief. And it gets better. Red-Haired Thief beat the Blonde Thief, which involved the police and a public police report. The boyfriend was taken to jail for domestic violence, and so was the Red-Haired Thief. Now that it is public record, I looked up the incident. Sadly, there was no house address when I looked it up. I'll keep you updated. Final update. The Red-Haired Thief contacted me and told me the Blonde Thief took my dog to her dad's house. So I went into detective mode and looked up who her dad was. I got his legal name on Facebook and phone number. I got a car with a friend of mine and drove 1 hour to Valley Springs, where her dad lives. We pulled up to the property, and there was my dog running up to the fence to greet me. I opened the gate, and she tackled me. I put her in the car and called the police. They arrived and did their best to get him to answer the door, but the police chalked it up to him not being home. They took my statement, and I explained everything down to each fine detail, including the escort in question having a record. They said they would catch him, and I would press charges for animal endangerment and grand theft. She would also be adding a third warrant to her record. I am so glad it's over, and my dog is so happy to see me again every day. The next day, I got a message from my friend. It turns out the thief sent her a message on Instagram about contacting the police over me harassing her. My friend then commented, "You do realize the owner came to your dad's house and took her dog back while the police watched it happen. She told the police she is pressing charges on you, and they are coming for you. Enjoy jail." And the thief flipped. She started threatening my friend and saying she was going to fight her before calling her names. Like, in all seriousness, hasn't she gotten beaten up enough this week? Story 2. This isn't really my story, but my grandma's. This story is pretty old, older than 30 years, but still funny as heck. So my mom, a teenager at the time, did not have good taste in men and started dating this guy, let's call him Jim. He would seclude her from her friends, and when she moved in with him, he told her she couldn't leave his apartment. He later broke her arm when she tried to contact my grandma. He thought that was a good enough warning and went to work. My mom, on the other hand, walked to her childhood home, broken arm and all. To my mom's surprise, my grandma was calm, took her to the doctors, and told her that she was home now and that tomorrow they could get her things from his apartment while he was at work. And they did just that, although most of it was destroyed. What happened later was already planned out without my mom's knowledge. Later that week, my grandma was invited to a big party by her friend Jessica. They were very close friends and even worked together. My grandma showed up to this party, talked to everyone, got friendly, and then disappeared into the shadows. She emerged from the shadows by Jim's work, knowing he closed alone each night. She then proceeded to key his car, smash his headlights, and pop his tires. It didn't take long for him to close and come out to find his beloved truck, and my grandma was waiting for him. He threatened her, and she retaliated by beating the heck out of him. She ripped his leather coat, his shirt, and took his keys while he tried to run from her. She quickly drove home, hid the evidence in the attic-like area, and then made her way back to the party and made herself the center of attention. The next day rolled around, and 2 officers were at the front door. They questioned her about whether she assaulted Jim. She, of course, said no and gave the police the names of most people at the party. The time some people couldn't remember where my grandma was, Jessica piped in about my grandma being with her most of the night. My grandma is 5'2", and at this point, she was just a bit chunky and looked like she couldn't hurt a fly. The police saw she had an alibi, thanked her for her time, and left. We never heard from Jim again, and my mom healed nicely. Jessica did not know what was going on but knew if the police were involved, then my grandma would need an alibi, and that's what she gave her. Story 3. When I was at university, I started dating this guy. At first, he was wonderful. He was dedicated to his studies, fun to be around, attentive, always surprising me with things, and working hard at his job. Then, bit by bit, things unraveled. He started skipping classes. Then he barely bothered to go at all. Worse still, he never helped around the house. He never washed up, cleaned up, did laundry, nothing. He was even fired from his job for too many no-shows. All he wanted to do was sit at home and play Xbox or browse the message boards and forums. This was in the days before social media, when dinosaurs roamed the earth. This left me having to pick up extra shifts, sometimes double and triple shifts, all while going to class and studying. I later learned that this was a pattern for him. He'd be really dedicated to whatever he set his heart on, but then get bored and fall back into old bad habits. Then he'd find a new passion and rinse and repeat. I knew I should have ended the relationship much sooner, but I held out hope that he would snap out of it, that maybe it was just exam stress getting to him. I desperately wanted things to go back to how they were, but it was not meant to be. I caught him cheating and threw him out. I was so stressed with everything that it wasn't until the next day that our joint savings account crossed my mind. There was a little over £5,000 in there, and bar a few hundred from him, the rest was money I had saved. I checked the account, and it was all gone. My ex had cleaned out the account and moved into a new flat with his side girl. I called the bank. There was nothing they could do. He was authorized on the account. I contacted the police, and they told me there was nothing they could do since it was a joint account, so nothing criminal had happened. They suggested taking it to civil court, but said I'd probably spend more money than I got back in legal fees, so it likely wasn't worth it. My ex had stolen £5,000, and there was nothing I could do about it. I felt like such an idiot. I got even angrier when I saw his posts on various forums, boasting about his new game consoles, new games, new TVs, and gadgets all bought with my money. I'm not usually a vengeful person. Petty on occasion, sure, but I've never wanted to exact revenge as much as I did right then. And I knew just how to do it. While I was a student, I temped every summer to help pay for my studies. One such job had been for a debt collection agency. The work was as bad as you can imagine, but it paid really well, and it was only for a few months. My ex had been dodging debt for many years, and he was very proud of that fact. He was also proud of the fact that his debt was close to being statute barred, and he hadn't paid a penny. For those of you who don't know, in the UK, creditors have about 6 years to collect a debt, and then it becomes statute barred. That means the money is still owed. But creditors have no legal way to enforce payments such as using bailiffs. My ex was a few months away from reaching statute barred status. However, what a lot of people don't know is that making a payment on that debt resets the clock. If you pay any amount, then that 6 years starts from scratch. Previously, I had used my insider knowledge to help him dodge the debt. Now, I would use it to hit him where it hurt. By the end of our relationship, I was handling everything including his debts. I had the paperwork, so I knew who he owed and how much. I called his creditors. I was honest and said I was a friend calling to make a payment on his behalf. I didn't pretend to be him because that would be a big legal no-no. They weren't allowed to disclose any details, but they were able to take payment. I paid the minimum I could on each debt, about £1 on most, but one had a minimum payment of £1.50. It was the best £8.50 I have ever spent. I also made sure to give them his new address and contact details, as well as his parents' address. Having worked in the biz, I knew they wouldn't change the address since I wasn't the account holder, but they would note it. They had various systems where they could search for his name against that address and see if anything came up. If they got a hit, they'd change the address. The trap was set. All I had to do was wait. A few months rolled by. Then it happened. His posts on the forums went from boasting about his new gaming PC to panic about a court date. He called me and begged for advice. I told him to go away. Seeing I wouldn't help, he asked for advice in the forums. One of his online friends told him not to turn up to court. That way, they wouldn't be able to prosecute without him there. It was terrible advice that was 100% untrue. In fact, not showing up is one of the worst things you can do, especially in civil court. This was getting better and better. The court date came and went. My ex, naturally, didn't go. A few weeks later, my ex posted photos of his empty flat. Bailiffs had cleaned him out and taken every last one of his shiny new gadgets and toys. On top of that, he ended up with several county court judgments. These are a big deal and can seriously damage your credit history, making it hard to get bank accounts outside of basic ones, near impossible to get credit including getting a mortgage. And it can also make it hard to rent a place since many landlords don't like renting to people with county court judgments as they're considered high risk. He also won't be able to find jobs in the financial sector. Now that he was broke and didn't have nice things, his side girl left him. I never got my £5,000 back, but it felt good to see everything he bought with his ill-gotten gains taken away. I hope that £5,000 was worth it. For anyone wondering how a student accrued 6 years of debt, he started at the university I attended when he was 25. He had initially gone to a different university at 18 but dropped out at 19 and went into the world of work. Then he convinced his parents to fund a business degree. He wanted to become an entrepreneur. And for anyone worried about the age gap, I deferred my university start date by a few years so I could travel. I was 22 when we started dating. He was 26. Story 4. My previous mid-size, obscure bank merged with another slightly bigger, but equally obscure bank several years ago. All the familiar friendly faces were replaced by younger, less than friendly staffers. I walked in and asked one of the tellers to change my $20 bill to quarters. I needed a bunch of quarters because the building that I worked in had quite a vending machine. I'm talking cinnamon buns, coffee cakes, gourmet hot chocolate, etc. The building owner imported the machine from Japan. There was just one problem. It was very temperamental when it came to paper bills. It ate bills constantly. Sometimes bills got mangled and shredded. The teller, let's call him Cletus, looked at me the same way that someone would look at a bunch of junk mail. Cletus, we can't do that here. The previous staff may have done so in the past, but as you know, we've absorbed this branch, and we can't accommodate unusual requests such as yours unless you have a merchant business account. He wasn't making eye contact now and was just fiddling about with his keyboard and monitor cables. His next words were the ones that set me off. Cletus, I can help the next person in line. It's on. Me? Wait a second. I have a few questions about my account. What am I allowed to do? Cletus. Sigh. Withdrawals, deposits, buy money orders. Me. Any restrictions or limits on how many times I can do? Cletus, now speaking very fast and being very animated. No restrictions, any denomination. You just can't walk up and ask us to make change for whatever cash you walk into the branch with. Okay, I'm happy to comply. Here we go. Me. I'd like to make a withdrawal. I'd like $100 and $20 S. Another $100 and $10 S. Another $100 and $5 S. And another $100. But this time I'd like 80 singles and $20 in quarters. Cletus. Fine. Like I said, any kind of withdrawal or deposit is fine for your type of account. He counts everything in front of me, hands me the cash and asks, Cletus, anything else, boss? I pocket the $20 roll of quarters and say, Me? Yes. I'd like to deposit $380 to my account. Please, Chief. I vividly remember his shoulders drooping and his eyes closing in disgust. Needless to say, I closed my account the next time that I stopped by.